Ambassador Hannah Kim walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council building. The structure was made of pure crystal that sparkled like diamonds in the starlight. Through the clear walls, she could see the beautiful purple and blue swirls of the Andromeda Nebula spinning slowly in space. It was breathtaking, but Hannah had seen it many times before. Today she had more important things on her mind. The council chamber was huge, with seats arranged in a perfect circle. Each seat was designed for a different alien species. Some were tall and thin for the bird-like creatures from the outer rim. Others were low and wide for the rock-like beings from the mineral worlds. The air buzzed with strange sounds, as 17 different species talked in their native languages. Hannah took her place at the human section. The seats were simple compared to the elaborate thrones of other species. That was typical. Humans were always treated like the new kids in school, even after 50 years of membership in the Galactic Council. "The session will now begin," announced the council speaker, a floating jellyfish-like creature whose body glowed with soft blue light. "Ambassador Kim of Earth has requested an emergency hearing." Hannah stood up and walked to the center of the chamber. Her footsteps echoed in the massive space. She looked around at the alien faces watching her. Some looked bored. Others seemed annoyed that their time was being wasted. "Fellow council members," Hannah began, her voice clear and strong. "The Rilken Empire has broken 3 major peace treaties in the past month. They attacked the farming colonies on Kepler 442b with plasma bombs. Over 2,000 families lived there. Most were killed instantly." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. A few aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They also destroyed the medical station at Proxima. That station was treating sick children from 6 different worlds. The doctors and nurses were trying to save lives when the Rilken warships opened fire. The chamber was getting quieter now. Even the aliens who had been chatting were starting to listen. "And yesterday, we received reports that Rilken forces executed 50 prisoners of war. These were not soldiers. They were civilian engineers who had been captured while repairing water systems on neutral worlds." Hannah's voice grew stronger. "This is not war. This is murder. And it must stop." The insectoid representative from the Arachnoid Collective made a harsh clicking sound with its mouthparts. The creature looked like a giant praying mantis wearing a military uniform. Its 4 arms moved as it spoke. "The human ambassador is being dramatic again," it said in a buzzing voice. "These are internal conflicts between the Rilken Empire and rebellious colonies. It is not our place to interfere." Several other aliens nodded in agreement. The turtle-like delegate from the Shell world spoke up. "Humans always want to fight other people's battles. Perhaps you should focus on your own problems." June Park, sitting behind Hannah, felt his hands form into fists. As Hannah's military advisor, he had seen the classified reports, the images of burned cities, destroyed hospitals, and murdered civilians. The Rilkens weren't just attacking random targets, they were testing the galaxy's response, and so far, the galaxy was doing nothing. Hannah took a deep breath. She had expected this reaction. "I propose immediate economic sanctions against the Rilken Empire, cut off their trade routes, freeze their assets, and if they continue these attacks, we should form a joint peacekeeping force." The chamber erupted in alien chatter. The crystalline beings from the ice worlds made tinkling sounds like wind chimes. The gaseous creatures from the Cloud Nebula whistled through their breathing holes. Everyone was talking at once. "Order! Order!" called the speaker, its jellyfish body pulsing with brighter light. The Rilken ambassador stood up. He was tall and thin, with grey skin and completely black eyes. His species had evolved on a world with little sunlight, so they all looked pale and ghostly. But there was nothing ghostly about his smile. It was cold and calculating. "The Galactic Council has always respected the sovereignty of member worlds," he said smoothly. "The Rilken Empire is simply maintaining order in our territory. If certain colonies choose to rebel, they must face the consequences." "Consequences?" Hannah stepped forward. "You're talking about genocide." "I am talking about law and order," the Rilken replied, something humans seemed to have trouble understanding. The chamber fell silent. It was a direct insult, and everyone knew it. In galactic diplomacy, such words could start wars. But Hannah didn't rise to the bait. She had learned patience over the years. The vote was exactly what she expected. The Council passed a resolution expressing deep concern about the situation. They called for enhanced diplomatic dialogue and peaceful resolution of conflicts. In other words, they did absolutely nothing. As the session ended, Hana packed her documents slowly. She could feel the Rilken ambassador's eyes on her. When she looked up, he was still smiling that cold smile. He made a small gesture with his hand, drawing it across his throat. The message was clear. June Park moved closer to her. "Ambassador, we should leave. Now." "In a moment," Hana said quietly. She wanted to remember this moment, the moment when the Galactic Council chose to look the other way while innocent people died. It would be the last time she asked them for help. They walked back to the human embassy in silence. The building was smaller than the others, located in the diplomatic quarter of the space station. Inside, the walls were covered with pictures of Earth, blue oceans, green forests, snow-capped mountains. It reminded the human staff of home. Commander Minho Lee was waiting in the secure briefing room. The walls here were lined with special metal that blocked all electronic signals. No one could listen in on their conversations. "How did it go?" Minho asked, though he could see the answer in Hana's face. "Exactly as we expected," she replied, sitting down heavily in her chair. "They don't care about civilian deaths. They don't care about war crimes. They only care about maintaining their comfortable status quo." Minho activated the holographic display in the center of the room. The galaxy appeared as a three-dimensional map, stars and planets glowing like tiny jewels. Red dots marked Rilkan territory. Blue dots showed human colonies, and scattered throughout were green dots, the research stations that officially didn't exist. "The Rilkans think we're weak," Minho said, zooming in on different sectors. "They see 50 years of peaceful diplomacy and assume we can't fight. They have no idea what we've been building." Hana studied the display. Every green dot represented years of secret construction, ships that were officially listed as deep space research vessels, but were actually the most advanced warships ever built. Stations that were supposed to be scientific outposts but were really military bases, weapons that violated every galactic treaty, hidden in plain sight. "How long until our assets can be repositioned?" she asked. 6 hours, Minho replied. "The Rilkans are planning something big. Our intelligence suggests they're going to make an example of one of our civilian transports. They want to show the galaxy what happens when you oppose them." Hana closed her eyes. She had hoped it wouldn't come to this. 50 years of careful diplomacy, of building trust, of showing the galaxy that humans could be peaceful partners. All of it was about to end. The transport. "New Seoul is scheduled to leave tomorrow morning," Minho continued. 30,000. Civilians, families, children, elderly couples. If they attack that ship, they won't just be attacking humans," Hana finished. "They'll be declaring war on everything we stand for." She opened her eyes and looked at the galactic map. All those alien worlds, all those species that had dismissed human concerns. They thought they knew what humans were capable of. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Prepare the authorization codes," she said quietly. "If they want to see what humans do when we stop being polite, then that's exactly what they'll get." The galaxy was about to discover that sometimes the quietest person in the room is the most dangerous. Captain Yuna Choi was having her morning coffee when her world exploded. She had been captain of the New Seoul for 8 years, and it was supposed to be a peaceful job. The massive passenger ship was like a floating city, carrying families to new homes among the stars. Children played in the recreation decks while their parents planned new lives on distant worlds. It was the kind of job that made her feel good about being human. At exactly 3:47 in the morning, ship time, she was in her quarters reviewing the daily supply reports. They needed more food for the journey to Kepler 442c. The families in Section 7 were running low on the special formula for their babies. Simple problems with simple solutions. Then the first energy blast hit. The impact threw Yuna across her cabin. Her coffee mug shattered against the wall as the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a second later, bathing everything in red light. The ship's alarms began screaming like wounded animals. "What the hell was that?" Yuna shouted as she ran toward the bridge. The corridors were filling with confused passengers in their sleeping clothes. Children were crying. Parents were trying to calm them down while looking scared themselves. Lieutenant Kyung-shin was already at his station when Yuna reached the bridge. His face was pale as he stared at the sensor displays. "Captain, we have multiple contacts, big ones. They came out of hyperspace right on top of us." Yuna looked at the main screen and felt her blood turn to ice. 5 Rilken heavy cruisers surrounded the new Seoul. Each one was twice the size of her ship and armed with enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Their hulls were dark grey with red markings that looked like spilled blood. "This is Captain Yuna Choi of the civilian transport New Seoul," she broadcast on all frequencies. "We are a passenger vessel carrying families and children. Please state your intentions." The response came in the form of another energy blast. This one tore through the ship's outer hull near the passenger decks. Yuna could hear the screaming through the intercom system. "All passengers, this is your captain," Yuna announced, trying to keep her voice steady. "We are under attack. Please, move to the emergency shelters immediately. Follow the green lights in the corridors. Do not panic. We will get through this." But even as she spoke, Yuna knew it was a lie. The new Seoul had no weapons, no armor, no way to defend itself. It was a civilian ship designed for comfort, not combat. The Rilkans could destroy them whenever they wanted. "Captain," Kyung called out, his voice shaking, "I'm broadcasting our surrender on all frequencies, full submission protocols, but they're not responding." On the screen, the Rilkan ships moved into a perfect attack formation. Yuna had seen enough military documentaries to recognize it. They weren't planning to capture the new Seoul. They were planning to destroy it. "Keep broadcasting," she ordered. "Maybe one of their captains will listen to reason." A new voice crackled over the communications system. It was cold and mechanical, speaking in the harsh language of the Rilken Empire. The translation came a moment later. "Human vessel, you are carrying weapons to rebel forces. Prepare to be destroyed." "What?" Yuna grabbed the microphone. "That's not true. We're carrying families, civilians. Check our manifest." But the Rilkans weren't interested in the truth. The second blast hit the passenger section directly. Yuna watched in horror as the ship's hull peeled open like a flower. The vacuum of space sucked out everything that wasn't bolted down. Furniture, personal belongings, and worst of all, people. She could see them through the bridge windows. Dozens of passengers floating in space, their bodies already frozen by the cold. A child's toy spaceship drifted past, still blinking with colorful lights. "Life support is failing in sections 3 through 7, reported the ship's engineer over the intercom. "We've lost atmosphere in the main passenger areas." Yuna closed her eyes for a moment. 20,000 people lived in those sections. Families who had sold everything they owned for a chance at a new life. Children who would never see their first alien sunrise. Elderly couples who had dreamed of spending their final years on peaceful worlds. "Emergency evacuation," she ordered. "All hands to escape pod stations. Get as many people out as possible." But even as her crew rushed to help, Yuna knew it was too late. The escape pods were designed for short-range rescue operations, not deep. Space survival. They had enough life support for maybe 6 hours. And they were thousands of light years from the nearest inhabited world. The third blast destroyed the ship's main engines. The new Seoul began to drift, powerless and helpless. Through the bridge windows, Yuna could see the Rilkan ships moving. Closer, their weapons still charging for another attack. Kyung was frantically working at his station, tears streaming down his face. "Captain, I'm getting reports from all over the ship. The medical bay is gone, the schools are gone, the family quarters are—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "How many?" Yuna asked quietly. "At least 25,000 dead. Maybe more. The sensors can't get accurate readings anymore." Yuna sank into her captain's chair. In less than 10 minutes, the Rilkans had murdered more humans than had died in any single attack in galactic history, and they had done it to innocent civilians who couldn't fight back. "Are we recording this?" she asked. "Yes, Captain, the black box is still functioning. If anyone ever finds us, they'll know what happened here." The fourth blast finished the job. It tore through the bridge, and Captain Yuna Choi's last thought was of the children she had failed to protect. But the new Seoul's distress beacon was still working. It broadcast the ship's final moments across the galaxy, along with a message. That would change everything. The beacon carried the ship's complete passenger manifest, showing that every person aboard had been a civilian. It also carried the complete recording of the Rilken attack. Within hours, the footage was playing on news networks across 1,000 worlds. The galaxy watched in shocked silence as Rilken warships systematically murdered 30,000 innocent humans. They saw families torn apart by the vacuum of space. They heard children crying for parents who would never answer. But the Rilkens weren't finished. Their fleet commander, a scarred warrior named Vextar, broadcast his own message to the galaxy. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by trophies from his previous battles. Today, the Rilkan Empire destroyed a human military transport, carrying weapons to rebel forces, he announced, his black eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Let this be a warning to all who would oppose our rightful expansion. The age of human interference in galactic affairs is over. It was a lie so obvious that even the Galactic Council couldn't ignore it. The New Soul's manifest was public record. Everyone knew it had been carrying families, not weapons. But the Council's response was predictably weak. They issued statements of deep concern and called for a full investigation. Ambassador Hannah Kim was in her quarters on the diplomatic station when she received the news. She had been trying to sleep, but her mind kept racing with worry about what the Rilkens might do next. When her aide knocked on the door with the emergency report, she already knew it was bad news. She watched the footage in silence, the New Soul breaking apart, the escape pods drifting helplessly in space, the bodies of children floating among the debris. Her hands began to shake as the full horror of it sank in. These weren't soldiers who had chosen to fight. They were families looking for a better life, students pursuing their dreams, grandparents hoping to see their grandchildren grow up on peaceful worlds, all of them murdered for the crime of being human. Hannah walked to her secure communication terminal. Her fingers hesitated over the controls for a moment. Once she sent this message, there would be no going back. 50 years of peaceful diplomacy would end in an instant. But as she thought about the children on the New Soul, her hesitation disappeared. She opened a quantum channel directly to Earth's military command center. The channel was so secret that only 3 people in the galaxy knew it existed. When the connection was established, she spoke 3 words that would echo through galactic history, 3 words that would teach the galaxy what happened when humanity's patience finally ran out. Execute Protocol 7. On Earth, in a bunker buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, those 3 words triggered a cascade of events that had been planned for decades. Computers came online, orders were transmitted. Ships that had been disguised as research vessels began to reveal their true nature. The galaxy was about to learn that when humans stopped being polite, they became something far more terrifying. They became efficient. Admiral Sung Kang had been waiting for this moment for 23 years. He stood on the bridge of the Incheon, a ship that, according to official records, was a deep space research vessel studying cosmic radiation. In reality, it was the most advanced battlecruiser ever. Built by human hands, its hull was made from materials that didn't officially exist, and its weapons could punch through a moon. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Commander Gina Bay from her station. "We're approaching the Vextara system. All ships are ready for hyperspace exit." Sung nodded. Around him, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. These weren't ordinary sailors, they were hand-picked volunteers who had trained for years in secret facilities hidden throughout human space. Every one of them had lost someone to alien aggression. Every one of them was ready to show the galaxy what humanity could really do. "Execute hyperspace exit," Sung ordered. "All ships, maintain formation." The stars changed. One moment they were streaks of light rushing past the viewports. The next moment they were the steady points of normal space. And directly ahead was Vextara, the grey and red world that served as the heart of the Rilkan's empire. But the planet wasn't alone. 50 human warships materialized in perfect formation around it. Ships that had been scattered across the galaxy as harmless research vessels were now revealed as the most dangerous fleet ever assembled. The bridge crew watched their senses in amazement. For decades, these ships had been hidden in plain sight. The galaxy had seen them as peaceful explorers studying distant stars. In reality, they had been mapping every star system, every defense grid, every weakness in alien military forces. "Sir," Gina reported, checking her tactical display, "the Rilken Orbital Defense Network is coming online. They've detected us." Sung smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Have they now? Specialist 1, you may begin." Across the bridge, Specialist Day 1 cracked his knuckles and began typing on his keyboard. For 3 years, he had been writing the most complex computer virus ever created. It was designed to do one thing: turn the Rilken's own technology against them. "Virus uploading now," Day announced. "Accessing their communication satellites, breaking through their firewalls, and we're in." On Vextara, the planet's mighty defense grid began to malfunction. Massive orbital platforms that could destroy entire fleets simply shut down. Communication arrays that coordinated the planet's defenses went silent. Even the traffic control systems in the major cities stopped working. "Defense grid is offline," Day reported with satisfaction. "Their fleet communications are jammed. They can't talk to each other. They can't coordinate attacks and they can't call for help. They're completely blind." In the Rilken High Command Center, panic was spreading like wildfire. General Zexmore, the architect of the attack on the new Sol, stared at screens filled with static and error messages. "What's happening?" he roared at his technicians. "Why are our systems failing?" "Sir, we're under some kind of cyber attack," one of them reported. "Every computer system is being infiltrated simultaneously. We can't regain control." "Then use the backup systems." "The backups are compromised too, sir. Whatever this is, it's like nothing we've ever seen." Zexmore felt a chill run down his spine. The Rilken Empire had the most advanced computer systems in the galaxy. If someone could hack them this easily, then they were dealing with technology far beyond what any known species possessed. "Sir," another technician called out, "I'm getting readings of multiple ships in orbit, big ones, but our sensors can't identify them." "Show me," Zexmore ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the space around Vextara. "What's Zexmore?" Zor made his blood turn to ice. 50 massive warships hung in perfect formation around his world. They were sleek and deadly, with hulls that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Those aren't on any of our ship identification databases," the technician whispered. "Sir, what are they?" Before Zexmore could answer, all the screens in the command center came alive with the same image. A human face appeared, older and stern, wearing a military uniform that none of them recognized. "This is Admiral Sung Kang of the Earth Defense Force," the human said, his voice calm and cold. "You wanted war, General Zexmore. Congratulations. You've got it." Zexmore's eyes widened. How did this human know his name? How did they even know where the command center was located? "You murdered 30,000 innocent civilians," Admiral Kang continued. "Men, women, and children who never raised a weapon against you. You broadcast their deaths across the galaxy like some kind of entertainment. Did you think there would be no consequences?" On his flagship, Sung watched as Rilken ships throughout the system tried desperately to respond to the human fleet. But their weapons wouldn't fire, their engines wouldn't start, and their communications were filled with nothing but static. "Sir," Gina reported, "the Rilken Third Fleet is attempting to break orbit. Should we engage?" "Not yet," Sung replied. "Let them see what happens when they try to fight us." The Rilken warships managed to get their engines working, but that was all. As they moved toward the human fleet, their weapons systems remained offline. They were flying blind into battle against an enemy they couldn't even properly see. General Huan Yu watched from his dropship as the first wave of human fighters launched from the carriers. The small ships moved like silver arrows through space, faster and more agile than anything the Rilkans had ever seen. "All units, remember your orders," Huan broadcast to his Marines. "We disable, we don't destroy. These people need to live too. Tell the galaxy what happened here." The human fighters reached the Rilkan fleet in minutes. What followed wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration. The human ships moved with impossible precision, targeting specific systems on each Rilkan vessel. Engines were disabled. Weapons were destroyed. Life support was left intact. Within 15 minutes, the entire Rilken Third Fleet was drifting helplessly in space. Not a single Rilken had been killed, but their ships were completely powerless. My God, whispered one of Juan's Marines watching. Through the dropship's viewport. We just took out their entire fleet without firing a single fatal shot. That's the point, Juan replied. We're not here to commit genocide like they did. We're here to show them what real military power looks like. On Vexistara, the population was starting to panic. News of the orbital battle had spread quickly through the cities. Rilkan civilians looked up at the sky and saw human ships where their mighty defense platforms should have been. In the High Command Center, General Zexmore was receiving reports from across the planet. Every military installation was reporting the same thing: total system failure. Their most advanced weapons were as useful as paperweights. Sir, one of his officers said quietly, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They're demanding our surrender. Zexmore laughed bitterly. Surrender? To humans? Never. We are the Rilkan Empire. We have conquered a dozen worlds. We will not be defeated by these weak creatures. But even as he spoke, Zexmore knew it was over. The humans had demonstrated technology so advanced that it made the Rilkan military look like children playing with toys. Worse, they had done it without killing anyone. It was a level of precision and restraint that was somehow more terrifying than simple destruction. Sir, another officer reported, human dropships are landing at the capital spaceport. They're not attacking civilians, but they're taking control of all government buildings. Zexmore slumped in his chair. In less than 2 hours, the Rilkan Empire had been completely defeated. Not destroyed, not conquered through violence, but simply turned off, like someone had pulled the plug on their entire civilization. Admiral. Kang's voice echoed through the command center one more time. General Zexmore, you have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. If you refuse, we will demonstrate what happens when human restraint is completely removed. Trust me, you don't want to see that. Looking around at his defeated officers, Zexmore realized he had no choice. The humans had shown they could disable his entire military without breaking a sweat. What would they do if they actually tried? To hurt someone? For the first time in his life, the general who had ordered the massacre of the New Soul felt true fear. The humans weren't just stronger than he had imagined. They were showing mercy he didn't deserve. And somehow, that was the most terrifying thing of all. The galaxy was about to learn that when humans finally stopped playing nice, they didn't become monsters. They became something far worse. They became efficient. Colonel Inha Park had studied the Rilkan Military Academy for 5 years. She knew every hallway, every classroom, every secret passage. What the Rilkans didn't know was that humans had been preparing for this day, long before the New Soul was destroyed. The academy sat on a hill overlooking the capital city of Vextara. It was a massive complex of grey stone buildings where the Rilkan Empire trained its future generals and admirals. For 200 years, cadets had learned the art of war within those walls. Today, they were about to learn what real warfare looked like. Alpha Team, move in from the north entrance, Inha whispered into her comm unit. Bravo Team, take the south gate. Remember, these are kids. Most of them are barely 18 years old. No unnecessary force. Her soldiers moved like ghosts through the academy grounds. They wore advanced armor that bent light around them, making them nearly invisible. Their weapons could fire stunning energy blasts that would knock out a target without causing permanent harm. This wasn't about killing. This was about showing the galaxy that humans could fight with surgical precision. The Academy's defense systems tried to activate, but like everything else in the Rilkan Empire, they had been compromised by Specialist One's virus. Guard towers that should have been firing warning shots stood silent. Alarm systems that should have been screaming remained quiet. Sir, Sergeant Mina Yoon reported as they entered the main building, we have visual on approximately 300 cadets in the dining hall. They're eating breakfast. They don't even know we're here. Inha felt a pang of sympathy. These young Rilkans were probably dreaming of glorious military careers, just like human cadets back on Earth. They had no idea their leaders had just committed genocide against innocent civilians. Secure the dining. Hold but don't frighten them more than necessary, she ordered. And someone find me the Academy's commandant. Within minutes, the entire Academy was under human control. Not a single shot had been fired. The cadets were herded into the main assembly hall, confused and scared but unharmed. Their instructors stood with them, equally bewildered by the sudden appearance of human soldiers. But it was in the Academy's Strategic Planning Center that Inha found what she was really looking for. The room was filled with holographic displays, showing star maps, fleet positions, and invasion routes. What she saw there made her blood run cold. "Sergeant Yoon, look at this," she called out, pointing to a massive display showing human colonial space. Red arrows marked planned attack routes. Target priorities were clearly labeled. Civilian population centers were marked for complete elimination. "My God," Yoon whispered. "They were planning to hit 12 different colonies. Look at these. Casualty estimates. They were planning to kill millions of people." Inha activated her comm unit. "Admiral Kang, Colonel Park, reporting. You need to see what we've found here. The attack on the New Seoul wasn't random. It was part of a much larger plan." Meanwhile, across the city, Captain Bin Choi was leading his Special Forces team through the underground tunnels beneath the Rilken Intelligence Headquarters. His team specialized in infiltration and information gathering. They had been training for missions like this since they were teenagers. "Remember, we're looking for their central database," Bin whispered to his team. "Everything they know about human colonies, our defenses, our weaknesses, we need it all." The intelligence building was supposed to be the most secure facility in the Rilkan Empire. Its walls were lined with sensors that could detect a single heartbeat from a mile away. Its computer systems were protected by quantum encryption that would take normal hackers centuries to break. But Bin's team wasn't normal. They moved through the building like water flowing around rocks, avoiding every sensor and camera. Their equipment was so advanced that it made Rilkan security look like children's toys. "I'm into their main database," reported Specialist Jin. Lee plugging his portable computer into a Rilkan terminal. "Downloading everything now. Holy... Captain, you need to see this." On Jin's screen, files were streaming past faster than the human eye could follow. But certain words kept appearing over and over. Human extermination protocol, Earth strike plan, a final solution. "They weren't just planning to attack our colonies," Bin said, his voice filled with horror. "They were planning to destroy Earth itself. Look at this file. Operation Burning Sky. They wanted to turn our homeworld into a dead rock." The files showed detailed plans for attacking Earth's orbital defenses, targeting major cities, and poisoning the atmosphere to make the planet uninhabitable. The Rilkans had studied human biology for years, developing weapons specifically designed to kill humans while leaving their own species unharmed. "This isn't war," Jin said quietly. "This is genocide. They wanted to wipe us out completely." Bin felt a cold rage building in his chest. The Rilkans hadn't just murdered the passengers of the New Seoul. They had been planning to murder every human in the galaxy. Men, women, children, elderly, sick, everyone. "Download everything," he ordered. "The galaxy needs to see this." Across the planet, similar scenes were playing out. Commander Yoon-ju was overseeing the capture of the main weapons manufacturing facility. Her engineers moved through the complex like they owned it, shutting down production lines and securing classified technology. "Ma'am," reported Chief Engineer Tae Kim, "they've been mass-producing a new type of plasma weapon. According to these schematics, it's designed specifically to be effective against human body armor." Hyun nodded grimly. Every piece of evidence pointed to the same conclusion. The Rilkans hadn't just stumbled into conflict with humanity. They had been systematically preparing for a war of extermination. At the main shipyard, human forces were taking control of half-completed warships. At the orbital defense stations, Rilkan weapons that had been used to bombard civilian worlds were now in human hands. Every military installation on the planet was secured within hours. But what impressed the watching galaxy most wasn't the speed of the human victory. It was the precision. Not a single Rilkan civilian had been harmed. Hospitals continued to operate. Schools remained open. Even the planet's power grid was left intact. Intelligence Officer Soo Kim was monitoring communications from across the galaxy as news of the human victory spread. Alien governments were frantically trying to understand what they had just witnessed. "Admiral," she reported to Sung Kang, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 different Rilkan military commanders. They want to negotiate terms." Admiral Kang's response was broadcast not just to the Rilkan Empire, but to every world in the galaxy. His voice was calm, controlled, but filled with an iron determination that made alien leaders across the stars feel a chill. "There are no terms," he said simply. "There is no negotiation. You murdered 30,000 innocent civilians. You plan to exterminate our entire species. The only justice for crimes like these is complete and unconditional surrender." On Earth, in the halls of the Global Defense Council, human leaders were watching the operation with mixed emotions. They were proud of their military's effectiveness, but horrified by what the Rilken plans revealed. "Sir," reported General Hayes, "to the Secretary of Defense, our forces have secured over 300 Rilken military installations. We now have access to their complete strategic database. The intelligence goldmine is enormous." "What about casualties?" the Secretary asked. "Minimal, sir. Fewer than 50 Rilken military personnel have been seriously injured. No civilian casualties, at all. Our forces are following the Geneva Conventions to the letter, even though the Rilkens clearly weren't planning to do the same." The Secretary nodded with satisfaction. This was what separated humans from species like the Rilkens. Even in war, even when seeking justice for genocide, humans maintained their moral standards. But across the galaxy, alien governments were learning a different lesson. They were realizing that the weak humans they had dismissed for 50 years were actually the most dangerous military force in galactic history. The humans had just dismantled a major empire in 3 days, without even trying to cause mass casualties. The Arachnoid Collective, which had dismissed human concerns at the council meeting, was now frantically reviewing their own military capabilities. The Shell Worlds were recalculating their defense strategies. Even the powerful Crystalline Federation was wondering if their energy shields could stop human weapons. Because if humans could do this to the Rilkens while showing restraint, what could they do to enemies they actually wanted to destroy? The galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their strategy. It was their choice to be merciful, and that choice could be revoked at any time. The age of underestimating humanity was over. The age of respecting human mercy had begun. The emergency session was called at midnight, Galactic Standard Time. For the first time in 300 years, every single member of the Galactic Council was present. No one wanted to miss this meeting. Ambassador. Hana Kim walked through the massive doors of the council chamber, but she wasn't alone this time. Admiral Sung Kang walked on her right, his military uniform covered with medals that most aliens had never seen before. General Huan Yu was on her left, carrying a briefcase that made every delegate in the room feel nervous. The chamber itself looked different. Where once the human section had been small and tucked away in a corner, now additional seats had been hastily installed. Human officers filled them all, their presence creating an atmosphere of barely controlled power. As Hana took her place, at the center podium, the massive room fell completely silent. Even the usual alien chatter and clicking sounds stopped. Every eye, sensor, and sensory organ in the chamber was focused on her. "Fellow council members," Hana began, her voice echoing in the crystal chamber. "The Rilken Empire no longer exists." The simple statement hit the room like a physical blow. Several delegates gasped. The jellyfish-like council speaker's body flashed with nervous colors. "In 72 hours, Hana continued, human forces neutralized every Rilken military installation, captured their entire fleet, and dissolved their government. Their territories are now under human administration while we decide what to do with them." The arachnoid representative, the same insect creature that had dismissed human concerns just weeks earlier, began clicking its mandibles frantically. Its forearms waved in agitation as it spoke. "Ambassador Kim," it buzzed, "surely such drastic action was not necessary. The Rilken situation could have been resolved through proper diplomatic channels." Admiral Kang stepped forward. His uniform was dark blue with silver trim, and his chest was covered with ribbons and medals. But what caught everyone's attention were the small pins on his collar, each one representing a different alien species he had studied and learned to defeat. Diplomatic channels. Kang's voice was calm but cold as space itself. "They murdered 30,000 civilians. Children, families, elderly couples seeking peaceful retirement. They broadcast the killings across the galaxy like entertainment." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink into every alien mind. Present. But that wasn't the worst part, he continued. When we captured their strategic planning centers, we found something that made our blood freeze. They weren't just planning random attacks. They were planning the complete extermination of the human species. General Yu activated a holographic projector in the center of the chamber. The entire galaxy appeared as a three-dimensional map, stars and planets glowing like jewels in the artificial light. But this wasn't just any map. This is what we found in Rilkan intelligence files, Yu said quietly. Operation Burning Sky. A systematic plan to destroy every human world, poison Earth's atmosphere, and eliminate our species from existence. Red arrows appeared on the map, showing planned Rilkan attack routes to every human colony. Yellow markers indicated civilian population centers targeted for complete elimination. The evidence was overwhelming and terrifying. The cetacean delegate, a whale-like creature from the ocean worlds, made a sound like a disturbed whale song. But how did you defeat them so quickly? The Rilkan Empire had one of the most powerful militaries in the galaxy. Hana smiled, but there was no friendship in that expression. It was the smile of a predator that had been playing with its food for far too long. Did you really think we spent 50 years in this council doing nothing? She asked. Did you believe that humans were just happy little explorers building research stations and studying cosmic radiation? The holographic display changed, now, showing the real nature of human research stations throughout the galaxy. Each innocent-looking facility transformed to reveal hidden weapons, advanced sensors, and military installations that dwarfed anything the aliens had imagined. Every diplomatic mission was a reconnaissance operation, General Yu explained. Every trade negotiation was an intelligence-gathering exercise. Every human scientist studying your worlds was also mapping your defenses. The chamber erupted in panicked alien chatter. The turtle-like shell world delegate retreated into its armored shell. The crystalline beings from the ice worlds made sounds like breaking glass. Everyone was talking at once, their fear filling the room like smoke. "Order, order," called the council speaker, its jellyfish body pulsing with bright, agitated colors. Commander Minho Lee stepped forward, carrying the briefcase that everyone had been eyeing nervously. He set it on the podium and opened it, revealing a simple data pad. "The new galactic security protocols," he announced, his voice cutting through the alien panic like a knife. "They're very simple to understand." He activated the data pad, and new text appeared on every screen in the chamber. Rule 1. Any unprovoked attack on civilian populations will result in immediate human military intervention. Rule 2. Any planned genocide will result in the complete dissolution of the attacking government. Rule 3. Any direct threat to Earth or human colonies will result in consequences that make what happened to the Rilkans look like a minor disagreement. The chamber fell silent again. The implications were clear. Humanity wasn't just announcing new rules, they were promising to enforce them with overwhelming force. Intelligence Officer Su Kim stood up from her seat in the human section. "We have complete intelligence files on every military force in this chamber," she announced calmly. "Fleet positions, defensive capabilities, strategic weaknesses. We know where your leaders sleep, where your children go to school, where your most important facilities are located." The arachnoid representative's mandibles clicked in terror. You've been spying on us for 50 years. "We've been protecting ourselves," Hana corrected, "because we knew that eventually someone would test our patience. Someone would mistake our desire for peace as inability to wage war. The Rilkans made that mistake. They're gone now." She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed the former Rilkan territory marked in blue. Human administrative zones. "We're not conquerors," she continued. "We're not interested in building an empire. But we will not allow genocide to occur while we have the power to stop it. We will not let innocent people die while politicians make speeches about diplomatic solutions." The council speaker floated forward, its translucent body still flashing with nervous colors. "Ambassador Kim, the council must vote on these new protocols. We cannot simply—" "You will vote," Admiral Kang interrupted, "and you will vote to approve them, because the alternative is that we enforce them anyway, without your permission." The vote was unanimous, not because the aliens agreed with the new rules, but because they finally understood what they were dealing with. For 50 years they had seen humans as weak, peaceful, overly diplomatic. Now they realized that humanity's greatest strength had been their choice to be merciful, and that choice could be withdrawn at any time. As the session ended, alien delegates hurried out of the chamber, many of them already planning emergency meetings with their home governments. The galaxy's power structure had just shifted completely, and everyone knew it. Hannah remained at the podium, looking out through the crystal walls at the swirling nebula beyond. Somewhere in that vast expanse of stars, human fleets were taking their positions. Ships that had been disguised as research vessels for decades were now revealing their true nature. "Do you think they understand?" General Yu asked quietly. "They understand that we're no longer hiding," Hannah replied. "They understand that human mercy has limits. Most importantly, they understand that the next species to commit genocide against civilians will simply cease to exist." Admiral Kang joined them at the window. "The Rilken survivors are asking what will happen to their people." "They'll be relocated to agricultural worlds under human supervision," Hannah said. "Their children will learn that there are consequences for choosing evil over good. Their military will never exist again. But they'll live, and their species will continue. That's more mercy than they showed the passengers of the New Soul." The three humans stood in silence, watching the stars. The galaxy was different now, safer for some, more dangerous for others. The age of human restraint was over. The age of human justice had begun, the end.